Good morning, dear students. Today, I'm going to take your attention to a very enthusiastic English classic novel, Robinson Crusoe, written by Daniel Defoe. Robinson Crusoe is an Englishman from the town of York in the 17th century, the youngest son of a merchant of German origin. Encouraged by his father to study law, Crusoe expresses his wish to go to sea instead. His family is against Crusoe going out to sea, and his father explains that it is better to seek a modest, secure life for oneself. Initially, Robinson is committed to obeying his father, but he eventually succumbs to temptation and embarks on a ship bound for London with a friend. When a storm causes the near death of Crusoe and his friend, the friend is dissuaded from sea travel, but Crusoe still goes on to set himself up as merchant on a ship leaving London. This trip is financially successful, and Crusoe plans another, leaving his early profits in the care of a friendly widow. The second voyage does not prove as fortunate. The ship is seized by Moorish pirates, and Crusoe is enslaved to a potentate in the North African town of Salé. While on fishing expedition, he and a slave boy break free and sail down the African coast. A kindly Portuguese captain picks them up, buys the slave boy from Crusoe, and takes Crusoe to Brazil. In Brazil, Crusoe establishes himself as plantation owner and soon becomes successful. Eager for slave labor and its economic advantages, he embarks on a slave gathering expedition to West Africa, but ends up shipwrecked off the coast of Trinidad. Crusoe learns he is the sole survivor of the expedition and seeks shelter and food for himself. He returns to the wreck's remains 12 times to salvage guns, powder, food, and other items. On shore, he finds goats he can raise for meat and builds himself a shelter. He erects a cross that he inscribes with the date of his arrival, September 1, 1659, and makes a note every day in order never to lose track of time. He also keeps a journal of his household activities, noting his attempts to make candles, his lucky discovery of sprouting grain, and his construction of a cellar, among other events. In June 1660, he falls ill and hallucinates that an angel visits, warning him to repent. Drinking tobacco-steeped rum, Crusoe experiences a religious illumination and realizes that God has delivered him from his earlier sins. After recovering, Crusoe makes a survey of the area and recovers he is on an island. He finds a pleasant valley abounding in grapes, where he builds a shady retreat. Crusoe begins to feel more optimistic about being on the island, describing himself as its king. He trains a pet parrot, takes a goat as a pet, and develops skills in baskets, weaving, bread making, and pottery. He cuts down an enormous cedar tree and builds a huge canoe from its trunk. But he discovers that he can't move it to the sea. After building a smaller boat, he rows around the island, but nearly perishes with swept away by a powerful current. Reaching ashore, he hears his parrot calling his name, and is thankful for being saved once again. He spends several years in peace. One day, Crusoe is shocked to discover a man's footprint on the beach. He first assumes the footprint is the devil's, then decides it must belong to one of the cannibals said to live in the region. Terrified, he arms himself and remains on the lookout for cannibals. He also builds an underground cellar in which to herd his gods at night and devises a way to cook underground. One evening, he hears gunshots, and the next day he is able to see a ship wrecked on his coast. It is empty when he arrives on the scene to investigate. Crusoe once again thanks Providence for having been saved. Soon afterward, Crusoe discovers that the shore has been strewn with human carnage. Apparently, the remains of a cannibal feast. He is alarmed and continues to be vigilant. Later, Crusoe catches sight of 30 cannibals heading for shore with their victims. One of the victims is killed, another one waiting to be slaughtered suddenly breaks free and runs towards Crusoe's dwelling. Crusoe protects him, killing one of the pursuers and injuring the other, whom the victim finally kills. Well armed, Crusoe defeats most of the cannibals on shore. The victim vows total submission to Crusoe in gratitude for his liberation. Crusoe names him Friday to commemorate the day on which his life was saved, and takes him as his servant. Finding Friday cheerful and intelligent, Crusoe teaches him some English words and some elementary Christian concepts. Friday, in turn, explains that the cannibals are divided into distinct nations, and that they only eat their enemies. Friday also informs Crusoe that the cannibals saved the men from the shipwreck Crusoe witnessed earlier, and that those men, Spaniards, are living nearby. Friday expresses a longing to return to his people, and Crusoe is upset at the prospect of losing Friday. Crusoe then entertains of the idea of making contact with the Spaniards, and Friday admits that he would rather die than lose Crusoe. The two build a boat to visit the cannibals' land together. Before they have a chance to leave, they are surprised by the arrival of 21 cannibals in the canoes. The cannibals are holding 3 victims, one of whom is in European dress. Friday and Crusoe kill most of the cannibals and release the European Spaniard. Friday is overjoyed to discover that another of the rescued victims is his father. The 4 men return to Crusoe's dwelling for food and rest. Crusoe prepares to welcome them into his community permanently. He sends Friday's father and the Spaniard out in a canoe to explore the nearby land. 8 days later, the sight of an approaching English ship alarms Friday. Crusoe is suspicious. Friday and Crusoe watch as 11 men take 3 captives on shore in a boat. 9 of the men explore the land, leaving 2 to guard the captives. Friday and Crusoe overpower these men and release the captives, one of whom is the captain of the ship which has been taken in a mutiny. Shouting to the remaining mutineers from different points, Friday and Crusoe confuse and tar the men by making them run from place to place. Eventually, they confront the mutineers, telling them that all may escape with their lives except the ringleader. The men surrender. Crusoe and the captain pretend that the island is an imperial territory and that the governor has spared their lives in order to send them all to England to face justice. Keeping 5 men as hostages, Crusoe sends the other men out to seize the ship. When the ship is brought in, Crusoe nearly faints. On December 19, 1684, Crusoe boards the ship to return to England. There, he finds his family is deceased except for 2 sisters. His widow friend has kept Crusoe's money safe, and after traveling to Lisbon, Crusoe learns from the Portuguese captain that his plantations in Brazil have been highly profitable. He arranges to sell his Brazilian lands. Weary of sea travel, Crusoe attempts to return to England by land, but is threatened by bad weather and wild animals in northern Spain. Finally, arriving back in England, Crusoe receives word that the sale of his plantations has been completed and that he has made a considerable fortune. After donating a portion to the widow and his sisters, Crusoe is restless and considers returning to Brazil. But he is dissuaded by the thought that he would have to become Catholic. He marries and his wife dies. Crusoe finally departs for the East Indies as a trader. In 1694, he revisits his island, finding that the Spaniards are governing it well and that it has become a prosperous colony. Okay, thank you for listening.